What do you think? Good.
Everybody, think we're gonna be here for a while? Yeah.
Hello, guys.
How we doing?
Good.
Yeah. Special.
Oh, Charlie's online, huh?
Did you?
Yes, I'm here.
Hey, Charlie.
Good afternoon.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right, Finance Committee meeting to order, if, Karen, would you please take the roll call?
Mr. Bale,
Here,
Mr. Drexel,
Here.
Mr. Horton.
Here.
Mrs. Showerman. Here. Mr. Scatella,
Here.
Mr. Benarski.
Here.
Chairman Copeland.
Here. Okay, starting off the top of the agenda, number one, ordinance number 31, 2024, general fund supplemental appropriation, $20,000 for AOP food safety and security grant reimbursement. Free money. Is there anybody here speaking to that today?
Dex, just as a reminder, I think Dex John came in to speak on the magisterial district, security upgrades, whether it be bulletproof glass. Okay.
Yes.
And he also gave us a quick outline on what we could take when we leave, if we, what was transferable back to the county.
Okay, moving on to number two, ordinance number 32, 2024 general fund budget supplemental appropriation, 1.9 million, and creation of new line item for prison roof replacements. How's everybody feeling on this?
You know, it needs to be done, just.
Yeah, I just like the how, but the why matters, and the roof needs to get done, and I think that. I wish it wasn't coming out of the savings account. I wish we had a little more creative to help pay for it, but.
Did you get anywhere with the bond issue?
Yeah, last week, following, retirement board, I went with Chris and talked with, Brenton and Joe. We had, in one of the previous meetings, I just expressed that I was a little surprised that we weren't doing a bond issue to help pay for this, and if $2 million doesn't make it worth it. If there probably is 30 years of deferred maintenance at different places throughout the county, and, Brenton expressed support for that. You guys were getting together, I believe, a raft of ideas, and my comments to them were there's 7 members, and I'm not sure how everyone feels about that, but it seems like it would be a pretty decent idea, rather than having a 3-year plan with all these deferred projects, tackling them, and then you have that debt service as a line item to pay for every year. It gets put in the budget, which I'm commendable to. I'd like to see our budget reflect what our spending needs to be. Then again, it's not really the best time to be doing a bond.
And
The rates are not super great right now,
Yeah.
so. You know, they were gonna bring down, some projects and say, this is the dollar amount that we have. And then we can kind of debate and entertain amongst the 7 of us, what stomach we have to do that. Okay. If we do it all. Do you have something else?
I was just wondering whether the administration had money from other places to pay for this.
Yeah, I actually had brought that subject up as well. Because there are some line items that are well underspent. We've also been having a conversation today that we have some line items that are already almost overspent. And I think it'd be hard for us to find a lot of cuts, but I did ask them, we did talk about potential of finding some cuts to help offset some of the costs.
You have a couple million in ARPA funds. And there's also at least 2.5 million in GAP funds that haven't been distributed. I wonder whether there are other funds. And the other question is, on the county's website, the administration is advertising an EMS authority as if it's already been created. And I was wondering where the administration is gonna get the money to fund that.
No, is that a second question? To the upside of this situation now, I think the EMS thing, like, I don't know if they're gonna get the money to fund that either, but
Well, it just,
just the
makes me
string of
think that there's
behavior,
ought
yeah.
to be money somewhere.
Hmm.
I'm still not sure, is all of the money. And Paul, maybe you can. Is all 2 million coming from? Is it all coming from the general fund or is part of it coming from the?
All of it.
And we're not touching any reserves,
Well, that is a reserve.
so we're part of the, well, what is
Fund
the?
balance.
Fund balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what have we always kept at a minimum? In the.
Normally in the neighborhood of like $24 million. We got around 50. The audit's not done yet, so I can't give you an exact number, but.
I think it was at 45 after that passes, I think.
But again, that's through the end of 22.
Okay.
The 23 audit is not done yet.
Gotcha.
And as always, we made a couple dollars revenues over expenditures last year due to reviewing some open position.
And interest on our,
What's that?
and interest on our funding, so we did some, we did realize some money. We've appropriated, although it hasn't been certified, 2.5 million ARPA funding. I'm still not sure what the ARPA fund amount is. Cause that number seems to be like a three-card Molly. Whether what's already encumbered or unencumbered. Maybe Colin, maybe you could tell us. What do we have on the balance sheet for ARPA funds?
I would have to get back to you on that.
Yeah,
Would that be an allowable expense of ARPA?
well,
Doesn't the,
listen, I think it's either, we know that there were at least. The last, I think it was $4.5 million in ARPA funding. To your question about EMS, $2 million were projected of ARPA funding for EMS. And we eliminated that last year. I suspect that's probably why we're not getting the certification for the million. The year prior to that, we set $2 million aside for the homeless population. Basic accounting is if it's not spent in that fiscal year, you sweep it back in. So they swept that back in. That was intended, I believe, for EMS. We tried to restore at least 1 million of the 2 million. The same thing occurred with the DEIC, in that there were $3.5 million appropriated sitting there. When the controversy started and it was directed, don't do anything until we figure this out. And then swept that 3.5 million back into the copiers to be redistributed. And so my question is, I think Dr. Faust gave us, and I'll have to go back and retrieve it as well. He gave us his numbers on it. But I think those numbers were based on CNA and Paul's numbers. And not saying that they're not, but up to date, we haven't for a year and a half now. We have been able to figure out how much ARPA money. If there, let some of my colleagues know. I mean, I don't know, and I've listened, I've asked. And stuff. We don't get a financial report that outlines and says, hey, this is ARPA money, this is appropriated, this is encumbered, this is unappropriated. And so I wouldn't be looking for to pay for anything with ARPA money. I would be looking for ARPA money to go to its intended recipients. And those are those people, places, neighborhoods, organizations, entities that were most negatively impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic And those BIPOC, black, i.e. black communities that were historically discriminated against, and it was in line, we felt so strongly about it. We put it in our policy when we declared racism a health emergency crisis. And so to the gap funding, for the last year and a half, the administration's had $5 million to walk around and dole out like walk around money. It was intended money for ECRA to distribute through a plan that this body and the community and council have worked out with the community, the ECRA, who does great work at it, distributing it, would distribute it. The subcommittee was formed here. We never got any resolution. So it was $5 million in his pocket just to say, Corey, here's 200,000 for you. The implication is you're buying votes. Westyville is 250,000 for you. When the reality of it is every community got an appropriation, just like we got an appropriation from the federal government based on their population and their census and their vital statistics. And the reality of it is, council, whom I didn't always agree with, did a very, very good. I have to give it to my past colleague, Mr. Anderson, Ms. Showerman. They actually did go out into the community and do the work. And so all of that was undone. Here we are. Here we are. Say it's in the 3-year plan, but we didn't know about the road. It was a late winter event, $2 million happening event, insurance. So, and I maintain, I tell Colin and Mr. Bonus, I think there should be a forensic audit, because anything less is like you taking over someone's drawer in retail and trusting them, saying that, hey, your drawer is going to balance out. And we were without an accountant for a year. So we're in court for 2023, we're in court for 2024. We fill positions that we've eliminated that budget. We've come back the next year and funded those positions, even though we eliminated them, even though we're in court, we look crazy over it. And now we're about to get some resolution. And so, and I believe that it's been tough. It's been tough holding up stuff, because it's not personal. Despite how it may seem or whatever, it's not personal. But we've abdicated our authority, our rights, and now it's not the time to say, okay, well, let's all just play good in the sandbox, because we could have did that months ago. Now is the time to get that judgment from the board, and we still should not do anything, should move anything. As far as all of these appropriations, you still got a phone system that's coming down the pike. I don't know when it's gonna drop, but you can bet it's gonna be like a 1.7, 1.5, maybe $2 million appropriation that wasn't accounted for, and it was in the plan. And so I wouldn't do any of this stuff. And my final part of my soliloquy is I've worked 33 years in construction in Erie, Pennsylvania, and I've actually put roofs on in the winter time. And so, and daunting as it may be, and our winters aren't really that mild, I don't think that anything should be until we get presented a balanced budget in October. And I think that at that time would be the appropriate time to talk about any expenditures of that nature and of that size. I don't think it's fair to us, and it's certainly not fair to the taxpayer.
Your opinion. Anyone else have? All right, number 3, ordinance number 33, amendment to the administrative code, article 2, section 5D3A, Erie County Conservation District, as amended in their last meeting.
I would just say that I think going against the state's recommendations to implement term limits, I don't think that does us any good. There's one county in the entire Commonwealth whose conservation district implements term limits for that very reason, because it's such a niche. You have to be a farmer, and it takes so long to get up to speed to actually do the work. I don't think we all know how hard it is to find appointments. I mean, we struggle with our own boards and our own districts, and just putting more restrictive limits on the conservation district. We've been operating this way with the conservation district for decades, and now all of a sudden we're gonna heighten the, I don't think it does any service to the conservation district.
Mr. Chair. That is absurd. Every single word out of your mouth is absurd.
It's a little,
That's
a
appropriate.
little much.
That's appropriate.
Well, I'm sorry, but you're referring to some woman who's the head of the department. That doesn't know anything about anything except what she's told to do. Now, the law is the law, and it's down from Pennsylvania. And you guys have told me the story about downstate on several different occasions, only to find out when you wrote to them and asked for an opinion, it agreed with mine. And that's because it's the law. Now, there is nothing in the state act. Far be it for me to misrepresent what the law says. I have no interest in doing it. The law is pretty darn clear that it just did not address. It did not address term limits as far as limiting people. But what it says exactly is that the terms shall be for 4 years. And at the end of the term, it should be, someone should be replaced within 6 months. Okay? It does not say that, it does not say that you could continue to serve as long as you want. It doesn't say that. And it would never say that because that's not democratic. What's democratic is to have terms. In fact, we have term limits here. Your boss is limited to 3 terms, okay? Those are, every single authority, including the redevelopment authority, has limited terms right out of the state law. This act is no different. And to rely on some person,
I don't think.
not a lawyer, to say that what the act says and doesn't say is just not appropriate.
You're the head of the
Now-
state department, not advising us to put term limits on. There is one county in the whole Commonwealth with term limits for their conservation district.
Well, there are 6 counties to 7 counties, 6 or 7 counties that are home with charter counties. So eliminate the other 53 or 63. Okay, most counties, except for a handful, don't have legislatures. Okay, and maybe they don't follow the law or try to follow the law like council does. But clearly that's the law, and what council did here, and they're thinking about it, is they extended it to 12 years. And the idea that this authority or this commission, which has no authority, it's a Department of Environmental Protection that has all of the authority. This is just a commission that, you know, is like a monitoring commission that makes recommendations. To suggest that they and not other authorities have a much stronger assignment and a more in-depth study than other authorities because it has to do with farming. What does that mean? They have to read a book. Okay,
I think it's a
but you don't
more than
need,
that.
you don't need more than 12 years to understand how plants grow. And what's good and what's not good for the soil.
I think we've heard a proper area of those opinions.
We have, one person that we just reappointed for their 3rd term, so. That was the longest one on the board.
I thought there was one gentleman that had served longer, but maybe my memory is off.
So we may not have to, if it's 3-term limit, it won't be addressed for several more years.
Right.
There were
That
2
was
that,
part of the language of changing it to January 1st was that those people are already seated and won't be affected by it.
Mr. Chair, actually, there were 2 that went back to 1982. One just ended this year, and the other one is still on. The amendment to the administrative code does not take effect until January of
Right.
next year.
Correct.
So there's
But
plenty of
even
time.
the person that's been in the longer one is that person's term. When
They
is
got
that
one another
conclude?
4th-year term, if my understanding. If their last 4-year term would start 1 January, is that what you?
Right, we
Right.
let the 2 people in.
Right, but the other 2 that we weren't reappointed last month.
Those are the two we let in.
So there is not anybody there longer than, I
Well,
thought you said 19.
well, next year, when they are limited to terms, there are 6 appointments. The 2 that we let in this year will be 2 of the 3 that should be appointed for 3 years. And the other 3 will be appointed for 4 years with their initial terms. And then they will stagger them every 4 years.
So if there's nothing to be done until the end of the year, then if you hear something back to the contrary, you can address it again.
I mean, you can, I just don't think Mr. McClure is a little worried that putting tightening this is gonna make it challenging for them, not gonna get people to serve, you know. But if it's the will of council, I'm not sure where this amendment to the administrative code came from. I don't recall any of these finance meetings, or any of the council members asking this. So it just kind of appeared here, but yes.
Actually, we asked for, actually, several of us. My colleagues asked for it, and that's why we came up with the 3 terms. As opposed to the regular 2-year term, I believe Chairman Copeland requested that. If that information or that.
Requested the amendment.
Yes, that amendment, if that's what you're asking, saying that you haven't heard it, it was a legitimate.
I remember the amendment at the last meeting where we made it 2 terms to 3 terms, but originally, when this came about, it was kind of a shock to the administration that none of the council people had brought it to our attention or anyone's attention that we were gonna put term limits on until it was ready for an appointment.
Mr. Chair, was it also a shock to the administration that the commission has been recommending to put the Fairview property to farm the Fairview property, but the administration has refused? Was that shocking to you?
Tom, I don't think that has anything to do with this, but we have had multiple meetings with the conservation districts. And yeah, their letter has some recommendations. We've also had conversation with them saying that fallowing a field, which is a common farming practice, will not hamper that soil at all. So
I've had
there's-
conversations and read letters and emails as well. And they distinctly, not only that, but the other organizations have been asking the administration to refarm, to put that back together, sign a lease and start farming all over again like they did before the project, the Fairview project was
I'm
in.
not for sure what this has to do with term limits.
It doesn't, it has to do with the shocking of the executive.
Mr. Chairman, move on.
I will proceed at my pace.
So we're moving this forward.
That appears to be the case. Yep. All right, number 4, ordinance number 34, approval of waiver of the bid requirements in the purchasing code and the sole vendor contract between Erie County and Runback Election Services. This was on our election board agenda and the last meeting. We're all good with that? Fine.
Yeah, nothing speaks directly to ordinance number 34, but I think I've just seen that, did we just receive another grant, another election grant? I think I just read that in the last day or 2.
There was an opportunity that was emailed to it, and we would have to talk to our solicitor about that as well as with receiving that in the EIG.
Yeah, and so that, and I'll just say that just to have it duly noted, not to open it up or anything, but as a chair of the election board. It is.
Okay. Awesome. All right, number 5, 2024 capital projects fund budget supplemental appropriation of the 1.9 and creation of new line item for the prison roof. This is a companion ordinance that I believe should have been submitted alongside the other that's already been through a first read. I believe that takes the first ordinance, takes it from the fund balance and the capital projects and the capital projects into the roof project. Is that right, Paul?
Well, the first one takes it general fund over the capital, second one spends it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this is entirely separate from the actual approval for the roof contract?
This is the money part of it, yes.
Right. We'll have the roof contract come before us as well.
I think, yes. Brad came down and talked to everybody about that part of it, yes.
Okay, number 6, 2024 planning fund budget supplemental appropriation of $184,008 for the PADCED home CHDO grants for hands.
Mr. Chairman, Jessica Haran, County Planning. I brought my colleague Abby Height, our planning program administrator for our housing rehab program planning. Last year in September, we partnered with Hands to help them apply for what's called the DCD Home Chodo Operating Grant. They were eligible to apply for these grant funds because they're a community housing development organization, the only one certified by the state in Erie County. So they do affordable housing activities throughout Erie County. And we were successful in achieving that grant for them. The total grant that they've been awarded is $406,337. You have before you a supplemental budget appropriation to planning because that's a 3-year grant. So we're appropriating just the dollars that they will be requesting from us as reimbursement for this current year. So it's 184, I think is the number. 184,008. So this is a complete pass-through grant. They will receive all the funds. The county planning department, nor county receives any admin dollars for this. But this is an additional infusion of funds into one of our affordable housing providers in Erie County. They do serve, they do have housing in the city, Mill Creek, Edinburgh, McCain, Washington, and Fairview, and we certainly partner with them to look for opportunities far and wide throughout Erie County. So this is a nice opportunity for Hands to continue to further their mission of affordable housing, and we're willing partner to help them do that. Abby's job is going to be to make sure that everything they do is in compliance with the grant requirements. There's grant reporting, there's drawdown funds, there's reimbursement documentations and things like that, that they will have to provide to her. Then she will go into the system and get those dollars and reimburse them for their allowed expenses. So we will monitor that, and it's a 3-year grant, and then we'll see what happens next after that.
Good stuff. Alex? Okay,
So this, Councilman, just one thing. So then in the future years, the next 2 years, you'll see those revenue dollars into our budgets for planning, and then a pass-through line where they pass through to needs.
and each of these are coming through as separate ordinances as they get each.
No, this year's is a supplemental appropriation for us because we didn't budget for, we didn't know about it, and we
Right.
put together our budget for you.
Because you hadn't gotten the award.
Because we hadn't got the award. We received the award letter in March of 2024, and we just received the contract last week.
So next year's will be.
Next year's will just be in our budget.
Sure. Yep. Awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to number 7, 2024 Public Health Fund Budget Supplemental Appropriation, $15,766 for additional NBC grants from the PA Department of Environmental Protection. I'm assuming that's why you're here.
I'm, Nicole Bolash, Health Department, supplemental money. We put, roughly 41,000 in our original budget. That's what we've been awarded in the past, and we received more money than we anticipated. So we're just asking if we can add that additional money to our budget.
Yeah. We like extra money.
And then you'll like the next one as well.
Yes, I saw that as well.
Yeah.
All right, in the 2024 Public Health Fund Budget Supplemental Appropriation, $39,700 for the Beach Branch Award from the PA Department of Health.
The brand new grant that, the Department of Health has not given us before, but they recognized the work that's being done here for the harmful algal blooms. And, they've awarded us this to continue and increase the toxin tests for the HABs, in our beaches.
Are these the same tests that are done by I think it's the RSC?
Yes, this just increases the number that we can do, the
Yeah.
amount that we can do, and the number of panels that we can do. There's roughly like 4 or 5 toxins, that are high in this area that, the test kits are relatively expensive, so this is gonna help us be able to test those.
So that contract with being in the RSC has a top out of spending. Are we going to see an adjustment to that contract to
No,
allow
no,
these dollars to be used towards that?
No, and this isn't with Gannon. RSC works with Gannon on a different contract, because we already contracted RSC and they already do the work, this isn't going to increase their staff. This won't increase their mileage or travel or anything. We're actually going to supply the test kits for them, which is why the bulk of the money is in supplies. But we won't have to pay them anything administratively. We've actually been able to, if this is the one, I think we can pull a little bit of money out here for some of our staffing costs. So we can reallocate from the general fund to this, to cover a couple of small percentages of a couple of our positions.
When you answered mine, I was like, okay, it's been 30-some thousand for supplies, so thank you, Nicole. Yes, so sorry.
Thank you.
And number 9, amendment to the administrative code, article 2, section 2C3, public, Department of Public Health.
Yes. When the world imploded in 2020, and we had to deal with COVID, we came in front of council and asked for many new positions. We had to quickly restructure. We had to set up a second location, but like everyone else, we had no idea. We didn't know what we didn't know. So we had, said that when we were able to, we would then look at our org chart, look at what was needed, and we can essentially eliminate 2 of our divisions from our org chart, which gives us, it takes us from 6 to 4, better streamlining our workload. It's going to eliminate 2 division director positions and generally it's a better flow for us. Again, we didn't know what we didn't know. So these were divisions that were created when the pandemic hit. And now we don't need these divisions anymore. Yes.
So those are just the 2 material major changes to the.
Yes, yes, and your positions that aren't filled. So no one's gonna be affected, there'll be no bumping, no one's out of the job. There were programs that were in those divisions that we were able to move under other divisions and actually paired up work extremely well. So this isn't any additional money. It's just, we want the admin code to reflect what our current structure is and the way that we do business.
Will it save money that I mentioned that was budgeted for this year, and then you have a $1
I do not, no, I don't, but
Yes, yes.
yes,
Well, thank you.
you're welcome, you're welcome.
Moving on to number 10. Approval of redevelopment assistance capital program grant. Application and cooperation agreement among the Erie County General Authority, Gannon University, and County of Erie for the Gannon University Athletics Complex project. I think that's why you're here, Tina.
I am here, sir. I come in front of all of you multiple times over the past several years. These are standard cooperation agreements that are required by the state. That we are the grantee. Gannon University in this case is the sub-grantee. The state requires a 3-way cooperation agreement with the municipality or the other government entity. So this one and the following one, number 11, which is one's for the athletic complex, one's for the IHAC building, are grants that were awarded to us for Gannon's projects 2 years ago, maybe. They're now in the process of seeking reimbursement to do that and have this cooperation agreement in hand. So standard stuff, the language on the resolutions comes from the state.
Now the reimbursement portion is for the auditorium, but the IHAC is work yet to be completed, right?
Neither one of them are fully complete, but they're in the process. So you get reimbursed over time as you submit your documentation. The last reimbursement that comes is usually 6 months to 24 months after the project's completed. It's a statement that is a lot of releases the last dollar. So this allows them to collect some money along the way. Standard stuff. We've done it dozens of times, maybe more. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Chair. Do you have copies of the cooperation?
They are in this book.
Are they signed?
They're signed by us and Dan, but not by you.
But not by council.
Oh my goodness. Actually, it's, you approve it, it goes up to the county executive.
If we just receive that electronically, then make sure that happens.
Sure. These are state drafting.
If you want to print it out.
No, I mean, it fits in the materials. I only have to review it. I just want to make sure that everything's
You'll,
signed.
you'll have to review it from the board because we made a decision to save some trees. So that's like, again, would you like it printed out or sent to you electronically or would you like that?
Is
The
that
book?
I'm not a tree hugger, but I'm a tree saver.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I would suggest that council, table both of these resolutions. We don't, it's too quick to act from today to next Tuesday without, even at a second one.
And I asked why.
Pardon?
And I asked why.
Do you have any issues with it being,
Well, I guess the standard language that the state provides,
well, the first issue is that, I mean, this is the same thing that happened with, the Fairview project. Because it was a resolution, we didn't have to read it. And it came back upon us for about 6 or 7 months. And I just think that the administrative code should be amended when we have significant monies being spent, or approved, or long-term contracts where there should be 2 readings with the resolution as well. And so I just think that the council should have time for it to sink in and the public should know about it. Before council acts.
I would suggest that this has been a bipartisan sponsored by Ryan Bizarro and Dan Laughlin. And hand-selected grant by the governor. For redevelopment assistance and, when we're talking about. Dealing with county property like the Fairview property was, that's one thing. I see this as just an approval to allow Tina's group to administer the grant. And in reality, we are not really a party to this agreement. Other than being the pastor that it goes through, and it could just as well go through your owner, I'm assuming.
if they go to the city, it's a project in the city, but I typically bring them all to you because I'm the county authority, but it's not a requirement. I can take this one to the city. There's no, obligation on the county's part at all. There's no risk, no money goes to the county. It's just standard required language by the state.
Well, that's interesting that you brought that up. That's another reason why council should wait. And it doesn't matter that it's, politics has nothing to do with my recommendation. I don't care who signed it, or if it was bipartisan or not, that has nothing to do with it. My client is county council. And I'm concerned about county council. Not what other any representative might say about council. And in fact, I've seen a number of these things go on over the years, many times. And the issue with the urban redevelopment law that screwed things up with the Fairview project was that there was no notification to the public. Now, if the RACP doesn't have similar language to it, and I'm not sure that it does, I'd like to review that.
Well,
I agree with you that it's a grant going through and I'm fine with moving it forward.
I guess we can address that in caucus.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we can address that then, but I'm gonna make some comments about it right now. And that is, I'm more inclined to agree with our attorney. I fail to see what delaying this, how this would harm that in any way, shape, form, or fashion. Unless there's like a hard deadline, which has been indicated. And if it is, it's something that we certainly should not feel, should not put transparency into the public's interests before our own. And in light of the history, what has been stated here, I don't have a problem with waiting another couple of weeks or whatever. I think that, and I say that because I'm one that never wants to do a first read, pass to a second read. I think they all should be. I'm always the one who will err on the side of the public. When we say, oh, well, this is just, can we make this a second read? Well, if it's an emergency, then I'll fold on some instances, but I'm just for the record, I'm always for more public input and more public opportunity just to the information.
Mr. Chair, is this something that really requires public input though? On this app, it's not coming from our funding source. This is.
It doesn't require it, but it doesn't prohibit the public for me, I'm speaking for me. My signature represents, as does yours, probably 40,000 people. And I see some of the people who come to our meetings and they're pretty informed electorate. And they have questions about stuff on our agenda, believe it or not. Stuff with not, clearly the big ticket items. And I'm sure I'm not the only one that gets calls, Fred, or won't start calling names, but I'm sure I'm not the only one that gets, hey, what is this? Or what is that? And and although we have done several of these, and they're not formed to me or whatever, what's the big rush?
Okay. I say vote it up and vote it down. Yes.
That would move the vote. If they were to hold up on that, it would move the vote to June 18th.
That's your,
With that,
well, I mean, all it does is, slow up the process, reimbursement process, and that's so that it gets to the state. It does not have a deadline. I just want to be clear that these dollars cannot be reallocated to any other Gannon project. There's a state consultant that manages work that we do. We monitor their work, it's then sent to a state consultant that's assigned by the state who monitors their work. Before it goes to the office budget, which then the third review before it is reimbursed, which is why it takes so long to reimburse these projects. So just for your knowledge, future public's knowledge, Gannon cannot use this project at the library. We cannot use this money on any other project. It has to stay within the very strict guidelines the state has defined, which has already been submitted to the state approved. So it says athletic center can only be used for very finite items within that athletic center. Or IHAC, it can only be used on that specific floor, not on any other floor. It can't be moved anywhere else.
Peter, the two for IHAC, that's specifically for the lab for First Ascent.
No, it's
No.
not the first ascent. It's
Okay,
an
it's
earlier
separate.
project. There's a new application into the state. For the First Ascent project, which has not been approved or not approved yet. So these are very restricted grants. They always have been. And they are reimbursement rates. So Gannon has put out the money, paid their contractors, and it's just waiting to be reimbursed.
And I get it, it's not whether again use it for something else or whatever, clearly, I mean, that's the type of information that you just given it. I'd like to be able to share with my public. Hey, no, it's not going to be. Everyone not sitting here, they're already with the atmosphere charge like it is. I think that it's not unrealistic that I have those type questions. And I don't see that, the reimbursement process slows down, particularly if it's not, it shouldn't matter. But if it's a small, independent mom pop business, of course, it was raised on for an entity that had 30 employees that was waiting on it. But again, it's $100 million building. I don't think a couple of weeks will set them back reimbursement for the payment of their main contracts.
The only concern that I would have is so often we watch the State House give most of their allocations to Philly, Harrisburg, and Pittsburgh. We're in the far corner of the state that's so often forgotten about, and when we've been blessed to have projects picked in our community by the governor himself, who's quite difficult to get a hold of. I don't want there to be an appearance of it having roadblocks in just simple grants administration. I mean, there's a couple of things that are going on right now with local economic development that has got people a little shook, and I think it would be a good idea to ignore who the grant recipient is, because it's not county's money. And I'm just glad to see some state funds get invested in our community.
It mattered to me who the recipient is. I think that transparency, I don't think that there's one harm in waiting. I'm certainly not looking to move forward, hold it up or anything. Just based on last year's activities and the fact that it is a resolution, it's not like it's an ordinance. We used to usually deal with these things. These things just started coming down, those resolutions last year. It usually was an ordinance where it was built in that you had 2 readings anyway. And so now with the resolution, you take that and fight it out away from the public, and that's my own. I respect the work that the authority does. I certainly respect the work that this team and even the work that Gannon does. So it's not a Republican, Democrat. It's not who the institution is. It's just. But
I'm still gonna agree with you.
Well, I guess we can get it to you later if we want to table, we can table. If not, we can pass it. I'll go on. All right, again, Paul, number 12. Analysis of the fund balance.
If all of the ordinances in front of you are approved, the county is in compliance with requirements of the 2 months of general fund expenditures. As noted, in the administrative code, and that will be by a number of approximately $22,706,730.
Paul, I brought this up to both Chris.
Yes,
and
you did.
Brent.
And that's in there because if you remember, the first part of that was still hanging out there at the end of last month, and then the second part of it was approved and put through into the budget at the beginning of this month. So that one will be out of there
So
next month. And then
ordinance
hopefully-
24 will be struck.
Yeah, and then hopefully, we'll get the audit done, and that 47 million at the top, the January 1st of 23, we'll get the updated number for that. So that, that'll get us a little closer to perfection, but, you're still looking
Yeah, I just-
6 months behind.
I almost thanked Davis for certifying the ordinance, and then he says, it's certified. It's like, okay, because it shows it coming from the fund balance.
Yeah.
Wasn't
Yeah, that,
sure what was
they,
about.
I guess, going back years, it's always, till something gets perfected both ways, every way, it kind of hangs out there. So,
Before we go to Jim, I just wanted to bring up a topic. My phone's gonna ring off the hook. I don't know if you guys are aware, but LERTA application sunset on July 31st. There's a couple big projects that are hanging out there that are kind of teetering on whether LERTA gets expanded or not. I tried reaching out with the mayor's office here today. They're apparently pretty busy. To see if they're gonna be putting up an ordinance to expand LERTA on their side.
Expand it.
Yeah, there's not been a lot of conversation about what duration it's gonna, that they're talking about extending. I'm a little surprised that we're in May. Because I'm assuming the 2 lower taxing bodies would have to pass their extension first.
Yeah.
Before we would even have a bite at that apple. Going into the summer months, it's gonna take us 2 months to go through 2 reads. So it feels like we're a little bit late to the game here. I'm really surprised that they haven't been publicly talking about it much.
some public statements I heard was from City Council Chairman, and he said that LERTA was a failure. think he felt so strongly about it, he did the op-ed. With the New York Times. He outlined his reasons for
Chuck,
learning. My thing with learning was, I don't think anything north of the Bayfront Highway was blighted or anything. And I don't think that no developer should get 25% of their project paid for through a learning. So I did, I've seen some problems inherent with learning, but by the time we get it, we're the last tax amount to get it, but I think it'd be interesting to wait and see what city council does.
I think Chuck and I have talked about this topic quite a bit, because I'm very interested in establishing TIP. And I would like that to be a tool that we could utilize countywide in all the municipalities and perhaps have the RDA help administer that. But I don't think that my reading of Chuck's op-ed is not that LERTA doesn't have merits. It just hasn't been as successful as they would have liked, and we need additional tools we put in their toolbox. I think that having one or both would be ideal. I don't know that Chuck has the votes at city council to abolish it. I just want to put it on people's radar to be thinking about, talking to people about, because it's going to be a full court press if they want to try to extend it before sunsets.
Yeah, I don't know that they abolished it or not. But I think the headline of his op-ed pretty much said that he thought it was a failure. And so those are his words. They're kind of memorialized in title. Right. Just a couple of days ago, I spoke with him, and I know that he is a big fan of the TIP. I'm sure that by the time they discuss, it's pretty much what I've been decided. And anyway, so it's not anything that I'm going to spend a lot of thought, time, energy on. I think that there are certainly more things around here that it should be prioritized.
Jim?
Alrighty. Our personnel agenda, ordinance number 13, 2024, appointed official salary ordinance, director of administration. First read was 2/13/24. We tabled it on 2/27 and back on the here with us again. And I know Carrie had mentioned at our last meeting that probably time to move on from this, but I'm definitely ready to move on from it.
I think we've been put in a really tough spot. Because whether it's tabled or not, it really doesn't mean the damn doesn't. And I think I don't know that I want to reward the serious violation of separation of powers with just acquiescing and giving in. I don't know what that looks like in practice yet. I think until we decide as a body that should probably keep the table, we'll figure out exactly how we should proceed with it. That's my 2 cents.
And the more I thought about it, if we take it off the table, or if we ignore it, if we take it off the table and vote it, are we setting precedent? Not for any future county.
Serious concern.
Would,
No, I think it's been done many times before.
That they've paid them?
Well, not this particular conduct, but the idea of the administration coming over and suggesting that you pay one of its employees a certain salary. That happens all the time.
I'm talking about, we tabled it and you start paying them the salary. If we ignore it, or if we vote along those lines, and a county executive down the road decides to do the same thing, the council set precedent by saying, go ahead and do it.
Yeah, no, it isn't a precedent, because if he tries to do it again, I mean, you could.
Go to court.
Well, that takes a long time to do,
Yes, it does.
but you could take more drastic action. I mean, in fact, you could send him a message now by taking it off the table and paying the gentleman 80,000. There are many ways that council could act politically if it needs to. But I think that I don't think it sets a precedent at all. And it's been around for a long time. I think you should vote for it. And be reasonable with what you think his salary should be, based on the number of factors you would normally consider.
I think I would vote to keep it tabled. We just received notification from our attorney that since 2023, we've been in this lawsuit about the 2023 budget. It morphed into the 2024 budget. And it looks like we're gonna get some resolution here in the next couple of months. He's getting paid anyway. Under no circumstance do I think we should abdicate our authority and reward that. I would vehemently oppose doing that. I think that we're close to getting some resolution. There's some hard timelines. We need to find out exactly what our ARP money count is. You have till the end of 2024 to appropriate it. You have October 1st deadline, not October 2nd or 3rd, but October 1st. We should get a balanced budget. And so I think that it just, why don't we go to court? We just gonna fold. Why are we in court?
Leave the table, doesn't bother me.
I mean, if someone wants to untable it, they're certainly able to untable it by vote. It may or may not. I'm on record as saying that I oppose any of it unless and until the court ruling says he can or we can. And as an addition to that, I'm opposed to it until the homeless people who are every day looking for housing are awarded the 1 million in DEIC, who incidentally had a great representation at their mini grant thing. Senator Laughlin was there for photo, and he seemed to think really highly of the program. But that's just a sidebar. I won't vote on anything until that money is released. And I would ask that you all would support that, not because I'm a Democrat or Brent proposed it or someone else proposed it. I ask that you support it just to protect your authority and your powers on council.
Mr. Chair, if council is gonna continue just to ignore this. And I do understand why they're taking so much time. I mean, if you want to file suit on this issue, I don't mind it. I mean, we could do this very same thing. I just am apprehensive of giving the public the wrong view of county council.
Yes.
And suggesting that we're the bad guys, you can't satisfy us, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think that's productive, but I want that to rise. That's why I'm a little apprehensive of that, but I have no problem in carrying out a legal function of filing suit proceeding. Otherwise, the council should come up with something else other than refusing to act on it, because he's being paid illegally right now. And, I think that it would be more effective if council decided to pay him, but disappoint him and not blame it on council. Council shouldn't feel guilty if Joe gets less than some people think. If he does, that's on the executive. That's on the executive. He's the one that does things without getting approved by council. And this is what happens. So if Joe has an issue with, if he's disappointed, with a number that county council comes up with. You should talk with his boss.
I don't want to punish Joe like that, because it's not about Joe, it's about the position, and I try to keep that there and stuff. I don't know what Joe's position, what he's worried or what he's not. I know they're in violation of the law. I know that Joe is getting paid at a rate that we hadn't approved, and he'll continue to get paid. I'm not advocating that we file a lawsuit. If any lawsuit needs, let the administration file it. They don't have any reason to, and I suspect that at some point they will either want to come compromise. We want to come. Why should we? As far as, and I think we're beyond optics. I think we already look bad, and I think people are waiting to see us show some backbone and exercise our authority. I think the county looks bad overall. I think what they say, you have to ask yourself, did you feel better about the county 3 years ago, or do you feel better about it now? Yeah, you ask yourself that rhetorically, because whether you're in it or not, I think you all know the answer to that. That's the perception from people to county council. We look like we've abdicated all our authority.
Mr. Chairman, again, the administration has absolutely no incentive to meet council. He's already doing what he wants to do. There's no reason for him to come to council. And there's no reason for council to take it off the table or leave it off. There's nothing that council could do in this position except file suit, which I don't recommend, or vote on it, but send a message. And believe me, with what he's getting paid now, I mean, I personally don't see, I mean, I've been here for a long time and I've seen that salary jump ridiculously over the last few years. I mean, look at it. Doug was, I mean, that salary has jumped into the 90s over the last 3 or 4 years. And in this particular case, I think that council has more than enough discretion to reasonably come up with a salary. And I know it's just a position, but everybody knows Joe. And so I know that a lot of us have a little guilt with that because we don't want it to be personal. But I think the best thing is to put this behind us and council come to do battle on another issue and not this one.
Well, my final remark towards that is, because go back and forth all day long on it. I know that we vetoed 2 positions that we still have people working in. This is a part of that lawsuit. I know the next year we came back, although we were in a lawsuit, which kind of looked like a push me for me. Dr. Doolittle, we said that we're suing you because you put those positions there, we beat them. Then we turned around and said, we can fund them. And so I'll do whatever the body decides they won't do with it, but I appreciate you listening to my take on it.
The fun part, you talking about last year?
Excuse me?
You talking about funding those positions that was last year you're talking about?
Yeah, we vetoed them the year before, and they stuck them in those positions anyway. And we came back and we funded those positions.
No, we vetoed it.
Did we veto them?
Yeah.
Okay.
While we struck them.
Yeah.
That's what the case is all about.
Yeah,
So no, those
okay,
are still
so I
out
just spoke. Yeah, but I just spoke, and we tried to reach compromise then. We said, okay, just keep the people, cause we're not trying to interfere with anybody's livelihood, Joe's or the people in those positions. We said, just agree that you did that stuff illegally. And he said, no. I'm doing what I want.
Anything else?
We can celebrate that we have a director of the library. Yeah. I was really excited to see that.
Motion. Are we gonna do
Oh,
executive
just
session?
before, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, I have a couple questions too. Well, the first 12, is everything moving forward onto the agenda for Tuesday?
I didn't see any other one to hold.
That's why I said that one's one, because they'd like you to say, okay, move that, move that.
So there's a-
Well,
After each item.
yeah, so all of those are moving forward
That's first.
for votes.
I asked that one's one to mention.
I should be doing that?
Yeah.
Okay. Noted, thank you. Hey, I haven't done too bad for just